revolutionary versus the wheel, which will connect to number 3 as well. But I was thinking about this, right? So you guys are doing trivia, and then you're going to do your live trivia event. And there's a concept right now, I don't know if you've seen it on social. They do it with, like, runner creators are doing it, sports betting creators are doing it, gambling creators are doing it. There's probably a whole, like, other set of creators who are doing it. But the concept is, for every X number of followers, I'm going to do X. So, like, the running creator might say, for every however many followers I have, I'm going to run that many feet. So if I have 100,000 followers, I'm running like 3.5 miles. And so you post that content, do the run, like maybe you're talking through it. And then the next day, it's like, I'm going to do it again. And it encourages people to kind of follow along for the journey. I've seen it work super well in sports betting, where they're going, for every follower I have, I'm betting 10 cents on a game. Okay. So they'll bet. So he's got 60,000 followers. He's betting $6,000 on a game. He'll live sweat the game, post the result. And so you can see, like, psychologically why people enjoy the content, want to follow, to eventually see them lose a lot of money. Some people are supportive, but some, they just want to see it go up and up, right? So that is the first kind of like real trend and format that I think can be replicated in a positive way. Like, you're going to attract the correct audience. It's going to be a really strong growth tactic. And so I was thinking about, like, how often as a creator do you think about these revolutionary content concepts versus just this wheel where it's like, all right, I want to optimize, improve my content. But with trivia, like, that was, you guys weren't doing that. And then you kind of like created a large part of your business from it. Do we ever take enough time to like sit down and actually think through those things versus, you know, a trivia event? It's not necessarily revolutionizing your business. It's just an add-on to the original revolution, which was we should really be doing trivia-based content.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately most good things in life, like if you ask 99 or 100 people, like, what's the best thing that ever happened to you, or like what's the coolest thing you've ever done, the most of the time I feel like it comes out of randomness. Like, most of the good things that happen come out of natural occurrences, right? Like, because you can't plan for virality, you can't plan for all. You could try,
but don't you think you could think through and actually build content concepts that
for sure
could become like super?
And I think there are a lot of people that try to go down this hole of like, this is exactly what you're trying to look for. And I think there are very few people that are good at it. Like, Mr. Beast has figured it out for YouTube. He understands that, like, these 5 concepts need to be in it. You need to have this as an opening, you need to have a middle, and then in between you need to be doing this, and this. Right. I think there are so few people that are good at it that most things that happen at like a large scale, most things that take on a life of their own, like trivia, happen naturally. Like, that was just fun for us to do. Yeah. And like, we had, you know, Ike's Lunch, obviously, that was super random, that ended up blowing up. We kind of parlayed what we learned from it in terms of like the couch setting and the camaraderie setting into trivia. And we just love doing that. So we were like, cool. Ended up taking a life of its own. So I think most of the things that we've had that are successful are not planned. We take bits of what was successful in previous ventures. And obviously we're trying to create new things and be innovative with it. We do look for trends, like kind of you were saying, you know, for every 10 cents or whatever. Yeah. We'll do like for instance, we had a couple videos when we were in the old office where, I don't know if you saw any of the videos where like it'd be like a family getting together, right? And they'd put $100 bills down the table and they just ask a question, and whoever gets it right will take that one. Like, we would do those, but in like NFL trivia style. Right. So it was like kind of taking the trend of that. I don't know how long lasting that is.
I'm saying, how often
can you be the one that creates the $100 trend? Yeah. I mean,
and you're saying randomness, and I'm wondering, should we be thinking more like we should try to be the trendsetters?
Well, I think it's almost it's like unboxing, like what are like
a trend?
What are the intangibles of that video per se that make it so addicting? Is it knowing the outcome? Is it you being able to guess along? You know what I mean? It is breaking down the boxes of it, and maybe that should be something that we're a little bit more conscious of. And I think that's probably something that in the creator economy, you need to be ahead of the curve with things, right? And it's very easy to get stuck in like what's successful now. And me and JMO talk about this pretty often with like trivia as a whole, just because naturally TikTok's harder to get views on, and it's harder to get a bigger audience on right now than it was a month ago than it was 6 months ago, than it was a year ago, whatever the case may be. That is the story of every platform ever created. So it's like we sit down and we think, okay, if NFL trivia starts to get a little bit sticky, like where do we go? Do we try to expand to more just like general football conversations like Caps Off was, right? Yeah. Where they were like fun, engaging, whatever. Do we start to do trivia in other sports? Do we step back and just do more like pop culture type stuff? So it's something that we think about. I don't know how often we think about going from like, all right, this is really successful for us to like, let's try to get something fucking all the way out there. Right. I think we always are like, branch, see what works there, and then branch kind of thing. You know, like we always try to follow, I think, a path from something that was successful because there's those intangible things that were working in the first thing to begin with.
Yeah, I think we can break down what those are. And I'm wondering if we need to be doing more like brainstorming of like, all right, we know that in a great piece of content, you're doing these 5 things. You're creating intrigue for the viewer. You're creating camaraderie, relatability, right? Like all those. But yeah, I just think about like, we're going to do a college football series on the gaming channel. And like all our concepts are like just based off of formats that we know are successful on the platform. But very rarely are we ever thinking like, what's like a completely new concept that we could apply here that could be really interesting to people? And I think that is, if maybe you think about like building a startup and building a piece of content, they're not too different, right? Yeah. Like what's the market need for this? What are the things that make it successful in this niche? And it's just maybe a way for, if you are like that tiny creator who's like trying to get into fantasy football, it's not like replicating everything that you guys are doing, using the best formats, putting like your spin on it. It's probably going like completely in another direction. So
no, that's fair, because I think obviously to break through in a crowded space, you need to start. I guess when you have leverage like we do, it's much easier to just start to like make small pivots from something you have already proven to be successful. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure more time could be put into that. It's probably a fun like brainstorm conversation to have. I think anything where you're like, all right, let's take a step back and think about this from a completely new angle. Like, how can we rethink content? How can we rethink fantasy football strategy? How can we rethink like everything? That's like always a fun conversation, I think.